Hello, everyone. We are so excited to be back here with John Foster. He has made two appearances on the show. One was more philosophical, and one was a technical look into his computer program. We enjoyed the computer program demo so much that we're having him on for a second demo because we also didn't get very far because we're Gabby. So we're going to take another look into his computer program, and so I'm going to let him take the reins and share his screen and do whatever, and I'm just kind of the audience and the sidekick today. So, all right,
All
John.
right, sounds good. And thank you for having me back, Andrea. It's always a hoot to come on because I never know where we're going to go. And, normally this moon in Capricorn likes to be well prepared, but I found my Scorpio, Sun in Scorpio, Mercury, Saturn in Scorpio, enjoying the fact that we go in areas that I have no idea where they go. So I get the mystery and I get to be a little bit of Capricornian. So today
Well,
I'm
we
going to be
can't
a
let
little
you
bit
sit in the library
Capricornian.
all day long. Come on.
What's that?
We can't let you sit in the library all day long. We have to
What can
take you
I
to the
say?
swamp.
I am just blessed that I get to have the environment that I want.
All right. Well, here we are. Take it
All
away.
right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so right now you're looking at the Zoom workspace. I'm going to come down here. I'm on a Mac, and I'm going to click on this little icon that says AstroPeregrine. So the name of the program is AstroPeregrine. It's kind of in honor of Noel, because Noel taught us about peregrine, but peregrine had a different definition from the way he approached it. Basically, it was a planet that's running away with the chart. So I thought, you know what? And it kind of does its own thing, and it doesn't really listen to anybody. And so you got to pay attention to it when you have a peregrine planet. In the chart. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing with my astrology program. I'm not trying to compete with anyone. I'm going to do all the things that I know are going to make someone a better astrologer. So I'm going to shoot for a program that probably does 90% or more of what anybody will need. And then if they need the specialty items, then they can go get software somewhere else. So that was kind of my motivation. In the beginning, I was trying to design this software really to help cater to practicing astrologers so that they could get what they needed to be done right to the point, print out what they needed to do, and be prepared in a short order. Um, but I'm getting a lot of newbies. And so now what we're probably going to do is we're going to move it now that we have the kind of the meat for the pros, we're going to move it in some directions now where we can help out beginning astrologers over the next year or two. So, um, you got to listen to your audience. They tell you where you want to go. So I'm really good at that. Okay, so I decided that today, excuse me, what we would do is look at a couple areas that I designed, um, which I think work a little bit differently than other softwares, although they probably have their own version of doing it. So I'm going to talk about real quickly the way the top format is. So this is what it looks like when you go into AstroPeregrine. It could either look like this or it could look like this, depending on what your settings are. This little window on the basically on the left-hand side, this breaks down into two areas. One of them is what's called the working charts list, and the bottom one is called chart views. Now, the working charts list, and I like to compare this to old school. So the working charts list is kind of like all of the chart folders in the old days. You would have went to a filing cabinet, you would open up your filing cabinet, you would have pulled out the folders that you wanted to work on at that particular time, you'd have brought them over and put them on your desk. Okay, the working charts list is kind of like the desk, and each of the charts is kind of like a folder. Okay,
Mm.
behind the scenes, which we're going to look at in a minute, is the filing cabinet. All right, now want to see something, all you have to do is click on it. And then down below in the charts view, it will show you one or more different views that you may have. Okay, so in this example, this is Jewel. Let me go to a different one here. So um, the working charts list is kind of an interesting. evolution, because it started in the beginning with one chart or a couple charts. And then it later got to the point that wouldn't this be really cool to have groups of charts that I could set up where when I want to see them, I can just click on something and then boom, there they go again. And I do a lot of training and teaching. And so I have lots of charts that I will teach in a particular section of the course. So I want to have them available just at a click of a button. So for example, right now we are actually looking at, if I load this chart list over here, we're actually looking at one of these lists over here. I think this is the T-square, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I just clicked on it. So it's the same list. So this is a list of charts that I wanted to be able to go over with obviously my students. And these are all going to show different T-squares in them, okay? And I kind of put the last time you saw the program, you saw it like this, where it didn't have any lines in it. And the reason for that is because I don't like them. I like to print out the chart and then draw on it so I can feel my way through the chart. But when you're trying to show something like this, where you're going over some major aspect, then having it show up on the screen is not a bad idea. So we added that feature in. And so now you can see the different configurations. And Mia Farrow is a very interesting one because she could be in a bunch of different major aspects because she has a lot. So basically a working charts list, like I said, let's get rid of it so you can see here. So let's start with nothing. Okay, now we have no charts on here. So I'm gonna go in baby steps. So how do we get them? So like I said, if we click on this little icon here, this is the equivalent of like going to the filing cabinet. This is your database. This database can have up to and exceed 2 billion charts. Okay, so you'll never ever run out of space. I happen to have 56,870 charts in this database. If
Wow.
you want to add a chart to the working charts list, you can search for some. So let's say I'm going to search for my chart. And, and then I get all of the Fosters, comma, J showing up over here. So here's my chart. Going to click on that, and boom, when I click on that, there's my chart. Okay, so that's how easy it is to show a chart. Let's get rid of it again.
I saw it.
What's that?
I saw it. Now I've seen
Well,
your
no,
chart.
I'm not trying to get, I'm trying to go from nothing to something to nothing and back again. So I'll come back here in a minute because I want to go over all of the kind of features that are available in the charts library or the database when you try to do searching. But right now I'm going to go back to this working charts list. So we went ahead and got rid of all of the charts that were showing up in the working charts list, so it's blank. Okay, so like I said, if I want to go back to charts that I have already created and I want to see them again, so all I have to do is click on this little button here, this gear, and it will allow me to load working charts list. It'll allow me to save a charts list. It will allow me to sync it. So what happens, the reason we had to have sync is because if you store a bunch of charts and you keep those lists over, let's say, a couple years, and then later you go back and prune your database, then when you come back, it's still going to show you the entry that you put in there because it's kind of like an alias that you have on a computer. If you don't remove the alias from the computer, even after the program is gone, it still thinks it's that there's going to be a program if you double click on it. It's kind of like the same thing here. So I added this little sync, which will go through the list of whatever they are, and then it'll make sure that anything that's not there disappears. Okay, just a little fixer up. So I'm going to load some so you can see this. So let's say, like earlier today, I saved all the working charts list that I was working with, and I put them into this chart list called My List. So now I have all of these charts that I'm working on. Charlie Kirk, Now in the Sky, Michael Jordan came on, John Travolta, Harrison Ford, Clint Eastwood, a bunch of people that I was looking at for various reasons. So they were over here. Now, if I want to get rid of it, like I said, I can come over here. And what's interesting about this is if you have a bunch of charts, first of all, if you see this, you can expand it. And if you have added any additional charts that are derived from it, like a forecasting chart, a relocation chart, let's go up here and just look at a couple of them, a composite chart, a draconic chart, a harmonic. Those will all embed themselves under the chart that they were derived from. But if you want to reduce the clutter, then all you have to do is close the little triangle there, and then they kind of disappear. Okay. The other thing, of course, you could do is you could come over here and you can click on them. So I could click on this chart, and if I click on this little broom, it's going to get rid of it from the list. It's still in the database, but it's no longer in the working charts list. Okay. So it's kind of a cool function. So some of the ways that you use this, for example, like I said, is like when I'm teaching on aspects. So I have a list for grand crosses. I have a list for grand trines. I have a list for singletons. I have a list for T-squares. I have a list over here for family only. So say you wanted to have a quick and dirty way of finding all your family members rather than have to go into the database and select each and every one of them. Well, this is one way that you could do it. I have something for when I teach foundational keys. I have something when I teach hemisphere emphasis and so on. So that's what these are. Here's one where I was recently doing midpoint lessons. And then these were the charts that I was showing during the midpoint lessons as an example. So it's
Wow.
kind of a really cool feature that if you are going to reuse a group of charts over and over and over again, then you can create these lists and save as many as you want.
So that'd be in real life, that would be because I love your real life analogy. That'd be almost like having bins with files in them. And
It would be basically going into your filing cabinet and saying, for example, these are all the athletes that I'm dealing with right now. And these are all the artists that I'm dealing with, or whatever it might be. So yes, so this is one way that you can organize your data where it's really easy to find it. If you're working, let's say you're working on a family with a family, and there's the mother and father, and there's three kids, and I don't know, maybe a boyfriend or whatever, a girlfriend comes in. Okay, so one of the ways that you could do it is you create this list over here, and then you create a list and said, okay, it's for this family. Okay. And then when you're done, you can actually delete them. You could come over here and load the chart. And if you click on any of these lists and you click on this minus, it'll get rid of the list. So you can do that. You can rename the list, so on and so forth. All common things that you would want to do if you have them. But this is really, really cool, especially if you do training. I think this is the reason that I did it, because I wanted to make it easy for myself. But I know there's a lot of other professional astrologers out there who also are doing training. Okay, so that's one really cool thing. Like I said, you can either get rid of a person. Here's Bob Dylan's chart, for example. But let's say I didn't want to work with Bob anymore. So I click on the little broom. Or if I come over here, like I showed you earlier, I can click on this kind of zero, and it gets rid of every chart that was in the working list and cleans it out. Okay, so
wow,
now you're starting from scratch. But again, you're not really starting from scratch, because you can come down here and load your list and say, you know what, I want to look at those Grand Cross chart. Well, geez, there's only one. Okay, I didn't put a lot in there because I think I only discussed this one chart, in fact. Um, let's do another one just so we can see something over here. Let's look at hemisphere emphasis. Yeah. Okay, so these are different hemisphere emphasis where you can come over here and you can see here's an Eastern orientation. Here is a Western orientation with no, this is also Eastern, because in Noel Till's, so if you were looking at this, you would be thinking that this is South and this is West,
hmm,
okay, in terms of that. But with the way Noel taught us, any planet that's retrograde will be activated in the opposite hemisphere emphasis.
hmm.
So we would actually, so in this chart, we would see David Bowie. And if you've watched David, he's not this guy that comes out there and gives you his hand and say, "Hey, hi, my name's John Foster. It's good to see you." Yeah, I'm a Western Hemisphere emphasis. But David Bowie always had this sort of defensive protective shell about him, if you ever notice it. But if
Hmm.
you looked at this chart just as it is naturally, you wouldn't see that. But if you flip them and put the retrograde planets in the opposite hemisphere, then you get an accurate representation of David Bowie's normal orientation of basically
Fascinating.
to the world.
I don't know
So
really of another program that groups charts like that. I mean, I've never seen one, but I don't know a lot about programs. Is that a feature that
I don't
you have?
know of any. I'm sure they have their ways of doing it. There's other ways that you can group it here, which I think probably other charts have. But this is the way I do it because I'm using the technology that I have available, and it makes it easy for me to do this. So
Mm.
this is a really cool feature that I don't think a lot of them have. So this is one way that you can organize your charts. Okay. So another way that you can organize your charts is for each chart that you have, you could come down here. So basically, once you add a chart, if you want to change it, you click on this little I button over here and it opens up this chart edit window. And in this chart edit window, you can change anything you need to. For example, if you wanted to see it in a different house system or whatever, you could see that here. If you made a mistake with the time or birth or place, you can change that here. You can also come down here to click this button called categories. And in categories, this is another way that you can organize your data. So for example, I started by actually putting a category called aspect grand trine, aspect stellium by house, which you just seen those in terms of the working charts list. I started doing it here, but then I realized how tedious this got.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I went and created the working charts list where I saved the list because it was easier. But there are other ways that this can be really cool. So one thing that you can do is you can create your own master category list, and then for each of your charts, you can have as many of these categories assigned to it. So for example, with David Bowie, why I have him as actor and actress, I don't know. I guess he was an actor, but that's not what we know him as. We know him as a musician. If I double click on musician, that's going to be added over here now into the list. If I want to put him in for other types of things, like he was kind of a weird spiritual soul, I might add a spirituality or some category over here and assign that to him. If I want to keep track of other particular personality features that he presented, the androgynous sense that he
Wow.
gave in order to do that. I could add that keyword over here and then add it. And then later I'll show you how easy it would be to find it.
I'm
So
so sorry I have to say something. This is really amazing for astrological research purposes. I mean, when putting charts into categories like it could be like depressed or kind of thing, and then
mhm.
at the end of you with your database, you could do all this research with that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and this is going to come in real handy because one of the modules that I'm working on is going to be it's called Astro Detective. And it's going to incorporate some of this and a bunch of other stuff to make it easy. That's one of the features that I'm been working on for a while. But now let me show you this. So I showed you how to add a category to a chart. And then once you add the category, you just come over here and click save. Now, if I want to then go and find them and I want to deal with charts, then I can come back over here to the database. And so this goes to what you were saying earlier. It's like the filing cabinet where you said, okay, I'm going to put all my musicians here. And in this drawer, I'm going to put all of my actors and actresses, and I'm going to put all of my entertainers. And in this drawer, okay, well, the way that you do this in terms of the database is you come over here and you click on use categories, and then up pops your list of all of your categories, and it shows you in those categories how many charts you have in each category.
Wow.
So for example, I have 1,922 astrologers as an example. So if I want to see this, I click on astrologer and say search by. Now, the only charts that are going to be, I'm going to be able to search, and I'll show you some more searching techniques, are going to be the 1,922 astrologers, which becomes the new base.
Wow, you can
Okay,
do
so
sub searches.
oh yeah, yeah.
That is
So what you can
amazing.
now do is you can come over here and you can say, so let's say we want to know all the astrologers whose last name started with Adam. So we do AMS and boom, there they go. Okay.
Wow.
If we wanted to see the word Adam anywhere in the name, then we deselect the search by last, and now it's going to show us here's Evangeline Adams, here's Dorothy Adamo, here is Jessica. Here's Lucy Adams. Here's Adam Ellenbass as an example.
Mhm.
So it can find whatever the string is that you search for in any of those categories. So this gives you another nice way of being able to easily and quickly find things as well. Um,
So can you see search like actor and astrologer?
yes, I can. So if I come over here and double click this and I say actor and actresses, let's see what we get because I don't even remember. Yeah, there's 20 of them who have the category. And let me get rid of this because I don't remember if it may take both of them right now.
Hmm.
So no, I guess it's not doing it that way. Let's try this. I want to do it one by one so I can see how this is working. Okay, so yeah, it does apparently do the, is that right? I might not even remember how I do things. Yeah, so it does look like it's kind of taken some sort of intersection. I'm not sure how it's doing it, but whatever the list is that shows up in here, these are all the charts that there should be more charts in this though. I can't believe there's, so I don't think it's presently doing the intersection, although that's a good idea. That was something I had intended to do. I need to add a little button down there and tell it to do the union of the charts. So I'm going to say right now that it doesn't do the intersection, but it is supposed to show you all of the charts that you are selected over there. So here is, for example, all the actors and actresses. Give me the name of somebody. Hey, Jay-Z.
Jay-Z Zoldak.
Who?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Jay-Z is an actor. Okay,
Mhm.
who's an actor you like, Jay-Z?
Oh gosh. I'm
Somebody who
so
might actually be in an astrology database.
I'm so bad with actors.
Judy Garland.
Okay, so Garland. Okay, so there's Judy. Okay, of course, we could have just went like that, and then we would get all the Judys, and we could have found Judy Garland, Judy Davis, Judy Holiday, Judy Winter. Okay,
I heard
again,
she's a real piece of work. I kind of want to see her chart.
who?
Judy Garland.
Well, yeah, she was a piece of work, but be careful. That has a bit of a judgment to it.
Well, it was just in the book I was reading. It was So You Want to Be a Producer. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Oh, look,
was
it's a Moon
a
Mars
she was a
conjunction.
very troubled woman.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's her chart.
Well, she does have a
So
Moon Mars conjunction, which in and of itself oppose the sun. Okay, that's enough. I see it. She
yeah,
could have had astrological remediation. She would have been fine.
what's that?
If she would have employed astrological remediation, she could have been fine. But I can see where she had an emotional coaster going on there.
Yeah, there was so many issues. I was listening to somebody recently talking about her very sad life. Let me get rid of a
She's
couple
got
bit of the clutter that's in here.
Saturn square Mercury as well. Saturn conjunct Jupiter square Mercury, right?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So I'm going to get rid of these midpoints. I give them the ability to show the four main midpoints, which are Sun, Moon, Ascendant MC, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn, Pluto. I'm going to get rid of them for now.
Love
Uh,
when he flexes his program. So cool.
so that's how you do that. So we saw how to do the searching there, and we saw how to do the categories. And I think she probably only has actor and actress over there. Yeah, that's what it is. Um, Now, again, you can do multiples, like we said, which I
Wait,
showed
who's a
you.
cool actor?
A cool actor.
You have a category
Let's
that
see.
says
How
cool
about
actor. Can you
Cheech
search on
Marin
that?
is a cool actor.
Oh,
Cheech and
oh yeah.
Chong.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
his chart is actually quite fascinating. He's got a lot of interesting midpoints in there, which reflect the overall pattern of the way his life trajectory went. Um,
Hmm.
Including some very prominent Neptune stuff. And considering that he was one of the early ones into the smoking the big gigantic joints and bringing them into the movies and all of that kind of thing. He's got some very interesting things.
So Mercury, Pluto, and Leo. I want
He's
to
in
see
one
the
of my
category of
courses.
nerd actors. No, but really, we don't want to divert from the job here, which is looking at the
No,
perfect.
that's fine. You can look at anything that you want because I just wanted to show a few things. The other thing, so these, like I showed you, these these provide a lot of little subtle features of ease. Okay. That's what this line is. For example, another thing you can do is down here. Let's say you have a list and you want to focus in on Cheech Marin. If I come over here and click on the F button, the only chart now that shows up is Cheech. So I don't get distracted, or if I'm training somebody, their eyes are not looking down at these other names, trying to wonder what the heck I'm dealing with. And if I want to get them back, I just come click the little arrows next to it, and then there's the chart list back in full. So again, the idea is always to try to reduce the clutter. I'm a big fan of reducing clutter, getting everything down to its simplest way, and getting a chart down to just the essential things that you need. Because what I have learned, and from students, from myself, from where I was before I learned how to actually view a chart with a consistent way of doing it, which Noel taught us, is that the more stuff we have in a program, the more stuff we spend our time looking at as though that stuff might be relevant. And often it doesn't offer us any real opportunity to help the person that we're going to have the consult with. If you're just doing research, again, that's another thing. If you're just doing, if you're just Gemini in your brain at the time and you just want a lot of information about how programs work and stuff like that, yeah, I get that. But if you're going to develop into a well-trained, practicing astrologer who wants to get to the essential things, that's what this program is designed to do. I designed it to be where I like to say that less is more. Okay, because
Oh, I think
if
somebody
you
else said
don't
that.
have 200 things to focus on, you don't get distracted by those things that are not necessarily there. Now, I could add them. It's not that I can't add them, but I'm probably not unless one of my users makes a user case for me and says, okay, I really need this because, and then they get what they want. I try
What
to
does
I
the
try to
F stand for?
focus.
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 Yeah,
Focus.
and the other one is I was going to put you, but then it was like FU was right next to it. I was like, no, it's not going to
Ah,
work.
and then that in itself would be distracting.
Exactly. But that's honestly what happened. Just what I just told you is the way that it actually evolved. Okay,
That's
so
funny.
those are how those things work. And also remember, I only provide two views of the printouts. You can either see this as a portrait or a landscape. So if you come over here into settings and you go to the options, you get over here to decide how your view is going to look when you either on the screen or when you print it out. So if for example, for me, what I would do is I would do the chart. I would come over here, I'd click on landscape. I may or may not use the large aspect grid, doesn't really matter. But then what I would do is I would, for printing purposes, I'd get rid of this extra stuff here. Okay, now I have all of this. And then when I print it, I'm going to print the screen so you can see it. So now when I print over here, I got all of this room where I can write my notes on. Okay.
Ooh.
So I have that sitting there on my desk. Then I go back to my program, come over here, click on this, and then I put my hemisphere and my legend back on, make sure that the aspect grid is set up the way I want and everything else is there. Click on this. And now while I'm looking at it, I can sit here and I can review everything that there is about that's really important about the chart. I get to see the polarities. I get to see the modalities, the elements. I get to find out if there's anything missing, because if there's something missing, then I need to pay attention to that, because there's either going to be subconscious, unconscious thing where it blurps out every now and then, and whatever that missing thing is, or there's an overcompensation for it. So I want to know what that's going to be. But how do I know that? I can't interrogate the chart. I have to find out from the person I'm going to be talking to. So this clues me in on some more of the questions that I know I need to be talking on. If there's stellia that shows up, if there's a singleton, this is another one. This is as important as a missing function. If I only have one planet, for example, Let's see here. Okay, so these are all in orientation. But let's say I only had one planet and it was in Earth. Okay, well, then that becomes a singleton because it's only one planet and it's in Earth. So that is probably going to be underrepresented. And how does a person deal with that? Well, either they kind of suppress it and go to a stronger area in their chart. Maybe let's say they have a bunch of fire, and then they would tend to go to there. But if it was in a singleton and it was only one earth, well, maybe they overcompensated again. So you use these just to give you some insights into the where the psychology of the person may go, so that you know how to ask some questions in order to get your consultation going. Okay. The thing that I do that I learned from Noel is one which I showed you earlier, Andrea, which is the hemisphere emphasis. So
Hmm.
in this chart, this is Cheech Marin. He also has an Eastern hemisphere emphasis, but he also has a very prominent South. Okay, which is
I
in this
love this
case.
chart layout, by the way. I think it's glorious. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you very much. Um, so this is an important part because what we've learned to do is the first thing we do when we look at the chart is we look at the hemisphere emphasis and see if there is an overemphasis in one side or not. And if there is, that gives us a clue on how this person's going to be approaching life. And then we start with that. Then
Wait,
we
I
go
have
to
a
the sun moon
question.
blend. Huh?
When it says South 11, North 2, but I see more things on the top of the screen, which I'm used to being North
Yes,
versus South.
because the
Tell
way,
me.
as I was telling Andrea, the way Noel wound up discovering over his 30,000 charts in his life, he discovered that planets that are retrograde tend to activate and try to resolve themselves in the opposite hemisphere. So what if you see North 2, but you're looking over here and you're going, well, there's only the moon. That's because if you come over here, there's a retrograde something. Where is it? Oh no, it's 2 because the moon counts as 2. That's why. There's no
So
retrograde
north on a
planets.
chart, Jay-Z, is below the horizon because like the east is the
Oh,
eastern
okay.
horizon, there's the rising, and then the west is over on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yes,
because
the
the
north is the
sun.
bottom. The north is
Oh,
the bottom. The
I get it.
south is the top. The east is to the left, and the west is to the right. Okay.
Well, I have to say that's confusing to my brain.
Well, it will
But
be
it's a
confusing
convention that I
until
guess
you
I should
learn how
know.
it works.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why that's confusing, but if it is, you can come over here and say, you know what, I don't want to be confused. Okay.
No, no, no. It's not the count that's confusing. It's the that I have to know to follow the sun or that the sun's rising or something. I don't know. I'm not a trained astrologer. That's why it's
Yeah,
confusing.
yeah. Well, the,
It's all right.
my handicap is that I am. So
Yeah.
it's when I part of my weakness and strength is that when I'm talking with anyone who is looking at the program, I'm going to talk through the skill set that I learned because I know it works. And so I'm going to be not only am I explaining because that's what I know, but I'm a real big fan and advocate of it because this type of system works really well for getting to the humanistic psychological dynamics that are going on in a chart. Whereas if you approach the chart in a different kind of a way, none of this would even be necessary to discuss. So it's because of my bias. My bias is very strong that even when I'm explaining the program, I'm kind of I can't help but try to teach. I just do it instinctively. But yes, I get what you're saying. If your brain has not been taught to see things this way, and you haven't trained it to do that, it's not going to be a natural thing for you to do. In
I think
fact,
Jay-Z makes the point. It's just a convention. I mean, it's just how the chart is laid out. You just kind
well,
of have to
it's
learn that.
that too, but it's also, for example, how many astrologers who are astrologers, call themselves astrologers, when they look at a chart, every time they look at the chart, they look at it differently. I bet you would say most of them.
Okay.
Okay. And I can say this because my God, I've had so many conversations over the years, and they all start with something, and it normally goes like, "Oh my God, look at Pluto. Pluto's in the 10th house." Wow,
Well, it
that's
depends on the
important.
inquiry, you know?
Well, I'm saying is that if you have a trained astrologer, then they have a path, they have a guiding, they have a way that they get into the chart, and then they do that usually all the time, and that helps develop out their eye and their feel for the way they feel comfortable with that particular approach. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying my approach is right or anything like that. I'm just saying that
Oh
that
yeah, you are.
no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I don't necessarily think that I did think that at one time. I will be honest. I would have been dogmatically in your face at one time about it because I was trained that we were it. But I have met too many really good astrologers, whether it's traditional, evolutionary, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Not mystical. Oh my God, brain
Vibrational.
fart. Um, it'll
Teleological,
come to me. Jason Holly's approach. What is it?
raunchy.
Well,
Well,
he
I
can.
guess
He
what
sometimes
you're
can go down that path. Anyways, my point is that there's a lot of good astrologers with different approaches, but they generally have developed out a way of going into the chart, and they do it over and over, so they get really good at it. So,
Well, you're
and
saying like you have a certain methodology, and you're saying that other people that you also respect have they might have a different methodology, but they have a methodology that they follow consistently, and it's not a random Uranian like roll the dice of what am I gonna interpret first this time.
yes, pretty much. I think that um, you if you want to be a good astrologer, you got to learn a system. You just got to. There's just otherwise you are going to be like I'll give you another example. If you trade in the stock market, okay, every time you go to YouTube, every time you go to the internet, you're going to find somebody telling you about another new way that is the way that you should be going in and investing. But if you learn a technique, one or two of them, and over time you get good at it and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and you learn about the pitfalls and you learn about the emotions and you learn how what happens when this happens to you and then you learn how to guard against it and then over time takes a few years and then you get to be pretty decent at your particular approach to the stock market as an example. It's the same thing with the astrology. I think it's the same thing with anything, quite frankly,
Yeah.
but maybe some of the other disciplines are more, there's not as much variation. I mean, the astrology can explain every single thing that's in the world and anything that's ever happened in the world. I mean, we claim so there's no way that just one system can actually explain all that. So
Mhm.
that's another thing. Horary is an astrology program where the rules are so black and white, but it's amazing sometimes what people are able to generate out of that. Now, at one time, I did not have a high opinion of it, but I do now because I know some people who are really good at it. Okay, so you know,
Well, I like your little breakdown
electroastrology.
here that it gives a lot of different astrologers with different systems the ability to find a way into the chart with what everything you've listed on the bottom. So I think you've hit a lot of
Well,
nails.
and that's the goal. The goal is to, like I said, I try to get at least 90% of what you really sort of should be going through, however you want to go through it. Okay. There's a couple things here that are not, for example, this polarity, by the way, this was something that I built honored after Richard Eidemann, who was another uh, really prominent astrologer back in the 80s and 90s. And unfortunately, he died way too early, or else he probably would have been a biggie. Really good. Worked with Liz Green and others over in Europe, did a bunch of seminars and things like that. And he died without authoring anything, but they took all of his seminars and they built two books out of it. So, anyways, I really like his approach. He was a Jungian psychologist, astrologer, actor, and I was in a bunch of things back then. I don't remember what they were. But he had a good way of organizing. So that's where I actually borrowed this from. And I added a couple things here. One of them is the unaspected planets, because like I said, um, We have a pretty strict definition. The definition for an unaspected planet is any planet that does not have a Ptolemaic aspect. And a Ptolemaic aspect is conjunction, sextile, square, trine, or opposition. If it has none of those, it can have small, it can have minor, it can have an inconjunct, it can have those. But if it doesn't have it, for some reason, the planet seems to not integrate very well in the chart. And it's like going to a ballroom dance, and you see this one dancer who is dancing with themselves around the floor, doing their own thing, kind of a thing. Okay, it gets your attention. So to make that easier for people, because sometimes it's not easy to see that a planet is unaspected, because again, it depends on orbs. Okay, now of course you can set the orbs. I tend to have tight orbs because I don't need a ton of measurements to have a good conversation. I just need a few. So I tend to keep them there. So hopefully that gets me to the most important stuff. But that's what this little piece over here is for. So in this case, we have Venus and we have Neptune that are unaspected. And doesn't it make sense? I was saying before you came on, JC, we were talking about Cheech, and I was talking about the Neptunian influence. Well, there you go. His Neptune is running away with his chart. His Neptune is going to need to probably speak and be part of his vocational profile too, which it winds up being. So his Venus and his Neptune, the two planets of aesthetics, actor, and artistic things, creativity, and all of that, they're very prominent in his chart. In addition to, he wound up
It's
being,
weird, John. I could see like see if I didn't see his chart and I knew a little bit about him, I could either say, "Oh, his Neptune's got to be really powerfully aspected with certain things, like his Mercury, which is and his Sun, which is why he felt he had to talk about, these kind of things." Or it's kind of like what you're saying now, the opposite is like his Neptune is completely unaspected, which is why, oh, that makes sense for him.
yeah,
What do you think about that?
there's no black and white. It's that what we all wind up doing is building our own set of guidelines that
Hmm.
guide us into the chart. For example, I have Mars Neptune in a wide conjunction. It's outside of my mathematical orb, which is 4.5 degrees, I think it is. So it's outside of that. But I very clearly am a Mars Neptune. I have the charisma from it. I have the confusion through my life from it. I had all of the various pieces of it. So I know that in that case. But mathematically, a computer can't tell you that. It's just going to give you
Hmm.
whatever falls within the particular orb that's
Funny,
showing
when
up.
I saw your Mars, Neptune, and Libra, I was like, he's so good at building magical connections. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and I've always had that skill set, and so I knew from very early that that had to be in for me the way my psyche is using my energies. It's pulling them together and using them. Plus, it's in the fourth house, and Neptune squares my ascendant, and so I get all of the confusing things from Neptune as I was growing up and trying to figure out who I was and all of that kind of thing, but that helped serve. Um, I was really good in sales and stuff when way before software. I was in insurance and in real estate as an example, but that's sort of how I found myself as an adult. So, but that's an example. So yeah, sometimes you will see a planet that's called down here. You'll say, "Oh, this is unaspected." Then you'll look at it and you'll go, "Yeah, but I feel like no, that Neptune is square as an example, the sun." Well, if you feel that way, that's the way you go. The this is just a guide. That's
Well,
all
how
it
do the
really is.
skeptics out there not take that to be like, oh, then you can read anything into anything?
Because in reality, isn't every single thing in life like that, where you can read everything into everything if you want? I mean, how many times are we complaining about news or something, Monday morning quarterbacking, or where they're putting their spin on something and they're taking the same set of facts that this other side is doing, and yet they're giving it a completely different spin. Same information, different spin. Well, it's the same thing with astrology.
Hmm.
And there's different approaches. I don't worry about the skeptics. The skeptics don't. They think we're a bunch of lunatics anyway. So who cares? That's my feeling. I ultimately got to the point where I really don't care.
I would
Um,
apprehend them personally. I would
yeah, I
arrest
mean,
them.
they have a bias. The thing that they should be doing, which is opening their mind and being scientific, they're not. They are using it to close their mind because they already know this can't possibly be true. Can't be a god because I said so. Yeah, it's got to be random. It's things just happen accidentally.
All
Can't be
right,
a
I'm
god.
gonna press the F button. Okay, what's next on the what's next in the computer program?
Okay, well, do you have a question? I don't know if I've shown the reports. I don't have a lot of reports, again, with the idea that it's going to be toward the essential stuff. So, for
Can we
example,
switch to Liberace?
this is a midpoint sort. So if you know what midpoints are, this is a really good report to have. This will allow you to select which one that you want to do. The most common, of course, is the 90 and 45. And the next thing you need to do is you need to figure out, well, how do I know when a midpoint is there? Well, if you come over here and you click in this little button here, it will color in all of your midpoints that are connected with one of the planets. So, for example, if we look in this first column over here, we see Neptune. It has a little rectangle around it. That rectangle means that the computer considers it to be peregrine or unaspected. Okay, so that's another clue for it. For example, when you have an unaspected planet, you don't see the integration. So if you go to a midpoint report, you might find some other ways that that planet was integrated into the chart. So in this case, we have Mars, Neptune equals Mars ascendant. Okay, so there is that charisma that we were talking about. Just in my case, it kind of says the same thing over here. We're going to take this energy through the ascendant and apply it in a Neptunian way. It's going to be accomplished that way. And for a guy who wants to be Neptunian, this is a nice thing to have because it's going to come right out there through his ascendant. As an example, if we go and look at the sun, we see that the sun, yeah, these are all two. It's going to equal Neptune ascendant. So we're kind of, again, we're taking that Neptune. Here's Neptune ascendant again, coming through the sun, and you'll see these sort of echoes here. Okay.
Wait, hold on a sec. I'm a little slow at understanding this. So when you're saying 90-degree midpoint sort list, and then say that like Neptune in the ascendant, that means that 18 degrees, 52 minutes that's where its 90-degree midpoint is, and the sun is at 20.
Yeah, what it means is that all of the cardinal planets are going to be condensed into a 30-degree space, and they're going to be from 0 to 30. Then all of the fixed points in the chart are going to then be translated, if you will, and then put in between 30 and 60. And then all the mutable will then be displayed between 60 and 90. So it's the way that if you know midpoints, if you don't know midpoints, this is not going to be a kind of a functional thing for you because you really need to learn about midpoints, how they're developed, how the mathematics works, and all that kind of thing. But it's something that goes back to, I guess, the World War II. It came out of Europe. It's something that became very prominent. It underlies the cosmobiological chart approach. And by the way, just so I can show you this, these colors that you have can also change. And if you don't like looking at a list, you can come over here and you can say, show me the tree, and you'll get to see the same things. Okay, it just now what it does is it takes them and it puts them in the planetary buckets.
Oh,
So the
that's
same
nice.
two, the same two that we saw for the sun, for example, here's Neptune ascendant, it's now in the sun bucket. Okay, in the moon we have these ones and so on and so forth. So this is a problem. If I'm dealing with somebody who's a beginner, I generally now will show them the midpoint tree because it's easier to view.
Hmm.
Okay, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that easier, Jay-Z?
Yeah, I guess I hadn't heard of this before, but I understand what you're saying
Yeah,
about collapsing them down and then they're in the w near something else. So I
I
get
think
that.
the strength of this program, from where I'm looking, is if you know midpoints, you can sort by midpoints. If you know, if this is like, we're heading into some special interest research groups through NCGR, and in astrological research, having a program like this would be really great for researchers. Like, can I get the list of midpoints here? Can the sorting capability of this? So the fact that we don't understand the midpoints isn't necessarily the point of today's episode per se, because
Mhm.
we don't, if one already understands midpoints and then they want to go looking and sorting by midpoints, that's I think the strength of this. But I hear what John's saying is like we're not necessarily going to learn midpoints from. I'm not a big midpoints person either, Jay-Z. So I don't really know it either. But I've surrendered.
I'm a big fan. It's one of the immediate things that I look at. In fact, what we used to do in one of the training sessions with Noel and our group, we would actually go and have nothing more than the midpoint list, and then we would derive an anticipation of who was coming to dinner from just the midpoint list. And we used to nail the person. I mean, the things that we said about the person wound up being it, because the midpoints are just another way that they basically think about all of this chart stuff just got all mixed up and everything. Now it's thrown in there, and you're going to get the same information out. It's just in a different format. So it's fascinating to see it this way.
Well, there
Another
is
thing
one
that
place I'm a fan of midpoints, and that's in composite charts.
yeah, well, and the composite chart, it is a midpoint chart. The other thing too is in um, my program, my detective program that I'm working on, it already does midpoint searches and stuff like you were talking about, because I needed to do that when I was doing some lectures years ago. So I built that to help me find charts. But so yeah, they're fascinating. I highly recommend it, but get some training. Also have this expositor tree, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that
Whoa!
is cool. I
Whoa!
like that.
Snaps on that.
And
Yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah. That's
build a few
awesome.
more. This one's build on the essential dignities, I mean, a rulership. But I'm gonna build the other ones. There's 3 or 4 other ones I'm gonna do. You can look at it with traditional. You can look at it with modern. If you're on traditional, you can say use the outer planets, and then it rebuilds based on the way the rulership was there. Okay, not
I
not
want
too.
to embroider a dispositor tree now.
I love this. So I learned about dispositors through the episode that we did with Debbie D.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about it. And if I'd have had a view like this, it would have really helped me understand, like, oh, this resolves into that, this, then this, and they all resolve into this one. Wow, isn't that cool? Yeah, I'm a big fan of the dispositor tree. Yeah.
And it does different things. Like you see these arrows going back and forth here. That means they're a mutual reception, for example. Okay. And if you, let's do another one. Let's find Anthony Robbins. Let's see what it is. Okay. Sometimes you'll get this little loop over here. You see this little dot? It goes from Neptune is disposed of by Pluto, is disposed of by Mercury. Mercury is disposed of by Neptune. And so you see the little loop where the energies are going around kind of in a circle. So now you take that information and you realize that part of the way that this person is going to be thinking about things is going to go through this. It's going to be about a new vision. It's going to be about empowerment. It's going to be about thinking. And if you know Anthony Robbins, this little loop right here really summarizes his entire life as an example. It's amazing. And sometimes you get planets that come off and they seem to be by themselves. Now, if they have aspects in the chart, then that's something I'm going to add down the road so that you can see it here. But let's say they don't have any aspects and they're by themselves. Well, now you have in your psyche, you have this long chain of planetary energies that are working with each other, and you have this one sitting over here and it's by itself. So
Mm.
it's going to be like having another level of behavior operating simultaneously. Okay, kind of like two themes as an example. So
Okay, well, okay, this is so awesome. And We're gonna have to put a pin in it again, John, because we have to let people know how to find you. But John, you might just be a recurring guest because I'm pretty sure we both love you. Um, I know I do. You and I must have a
Thank
good
you.
composite chart. I don't know. Okay, so tell us, Astro Peregrine is obviously very strong for research. So if you want to find John, you can subscribe to his newsletter at astroperegrine.com. He also
Mhm.
teaches private lessons, which you can see there on the screen, and you can book a demo with him and email him for more information. Remind us how much it is a month for AstroPeregrine.
It's the core is 249, and then here's a discount coupon which will take shed something off of that. And there is a bundle you can add just real quick if you don't mind. You can add in the astrocartography module, and then you can see
Wow.
how that works, and you can zoom in and move around and all of that, and center on the birthplace. And again, anyway, so that's there. That's another module. That is, I want to say 330 total.
Okay.
So it's
Well,
not
obviously, but
expensive.
well worth it. Huh?
Yeah, it's if you if you learn how to use the basic things in here, honestly, it has 90% or more. I honestly, for most astrologers, it has 100%. But for those astrologers who like to push the envelope or go into things that it doesn't do, then you'll need another program to go into those areas. But if you're looking for something where, especially if you're going to want to help other people or you're going to want to be a consulting astrologer, you really do have, honestly, everything you need. You just need
Well,
to
and
get
if you want to be a researcher, because for all those special interest research groups that are
and
starting,
that,
I
and
want
that,
them to
yeah.
take a look at this. This is good for research. So, all right, John. Well, I miss you already. I'll have to invite you back to the
Thank
show.
you.
All right, thank
All
you,
right.
Take
John.
care, Jay Z. Good to
Bye.
see you
Thanks,
again.
guys.
I'll see you next time.
All right,
Yeah,
bye.
good to see you.